I bring you special greetings here on the Pan-African Drive with me, Tony Michael Howard, Allies News Socrates. Of course, the Pan-African Drive remains a platform that is meant to inspire and motivate the current generation of young Africans in the actualization of their respective dreams, preaching the message of peace and national unity, as well as revitalizing the Africanization policy that speaks about good governance, social justice, democracy, human rights, and most importantly, the African unity. And for tonight's edition of the Pan-African Drive, it's a beautiful opportunity to be featuring a fountain of knowledge, an activist who has been in the vanguard of all peace and democracy in the Gambia regionally as well as continentally, and she happens to be Mrs. Hannah Foster. She has over 30 years experience in the area of activism on human rights and democracy. But we're going to take our short break. Just before we take our break, I have to remind you that this edition of the Pan-African Drive is proudly sponsored by Africell, the best GSM service provider, not just in the Gambia, but by extension the rest of the African continent. And I will take our short break. Once we come back, we proceed with the conversation with Madam Foster tonight.
We've got fantastic new social media bundles just for you. Here are your options.
50 megabytes for $10 is valid for 1 day.
Enjoy 400 megabytes for $40, valid for 7 days.
Get a massive 1,200 megabytes for $100 is only, valid for 7 days.
Simply dial *120# and press 3 to pick the social media bundle that suits you best. Subscribe now.
Why settle for one when you can talk with two? With the Africell TOK service. For just $99, you get a massive 1,200 minutes of talk time to share between your two favorite people. To activate, dial *135#, select your two Africell numbers, and you're locked in for a full month of conversations. Africell, connecting you to your peoples.
Welcome back from that short break. Just before we took our break, and I told you that we are super honored and proud to be hosting an icon in the area for democracy and human rights that has spent over 30 years of experience in the area for advocacy in the democracy and human rights across several quarters of the African continent. And Madam Hannah Foster, who is going to be speaking with us tonight on what I call assessing, or should I say evaluating, Africa's democratic credential. We want to know how strong our democracy is as a continent, and we're going to delve into her experience, or should I say her expertise and technical know-how in the service of all democracy, as she serves as the executive director, should I say directress, of the Africa Center for Democracy and Human Rights in the Gambia, with over 25 years experience in that capacity. But prior to that, she served as an education expert or scientist and information scientist as well with the Ministry of Education of the Gambia. And she's here tonight to speak of also in evaluating African democracy. Should I say welcome to this platform, madam? We are super proud and honored to have you here on Teledart, even on Pan-African Drive.
Thank you very much, Michael, for this opportunity. I'm honored to be on this program.
Okay.
And thank you very much.
You heard that from our guest tonight. Just before you got here tonight, in the last couple of days, we've been talking about you in a public space, and a lot of people have got very massive message about you, that you've done extremely well in your service to humanity, because not many people can be involved in such conversation, you know, forget their own life and then focus on other people's life in terms of ensuring that the rights of people are respected and valued. What inspires you for this drive with massive years of experience?
I did not intentionally work in human rights. When I got into human rights, I was more like a documentalist, a researcher.
Okay.
And that got me interested. And I felt that this was an area that I needed to explore more. And in exploring more, I found out that it did touch the lives of so many people, and in areas that many of us take for granted. And that was what inspired me later on when we are able to help people realize and claim their rights. As you well know, the center was established in 1989. I joined them in 1990. And one of the things that I did was to make sure that we shared the conventions, we are able to simplify them, we are able to engage different groups of professionals and also the citizenry. And that, as time went on, we saw that it did produce a new crop of Africans, a new crop of Gambians, a new crop of people who want to know more about the human rights approach to things and how they themselves are able to also be part of the equation. Because you cannot be talking about human rights and not having the people whose rights are being trampled on, speaking up and standing up for themselves.
Okay, that's a great one there from you. Just like I said, when we spoke about you in a public space, there were a lot of positive comments about you. But in the midst of all of the beautiful comments that we had, something stood out that was not very beautiful, you know, or captivating. Somebody says, "Oh, you're featuring her." Okay, what was her position, or what were her contribution with her center during the Jammeh era when there was massive human rights violations in this country? These people just, I quote, these people just serve their own interest and so that they gain a donation from the rest of the world to better their own lives, but they are not in the interest of the masses. Then it begs the question, what are tangible evidence of your contribution in the service of all humanity from a democratic and human rights perspective over the years to trash out such ill-conceived assertion about your job and you?
Okay, there have been, the center has been able to make a lot of contributions, especially during the Jammeh era. I'm sure you know that one of our flagship programs is working with the African Commission on Human and People's Rights and making sure that those rogue governments, there is space for activists to come in and tell their own story and to ensure that the African Commission takes a stand on certain issues. And that role we have played very well. And it didn't stop there. We also had a lot of training. We trained citizens from Africa all over, and today I can safely say that we've trained many Africans, including Gambians, from over 45 African countries. And these people we've also encouraged and looked for support to ensure that they are able to meet with the African Commission. They know about the procedures of the African Commission, and they are also able to stand up and tell the world what is happening in their various countries. Most of these activists in past years did not have the space, one. Two, they were not encouraged, because when you come to the African Commission and make a statement, then you put yourself in a problem, because most of the countries during that period, you find out that you cannot say anything about what is happening in your country. And if you do, it will be from the GONGOs, that is the government non-governmental organizations, who will be painting beautiful pictures of what is happening in their various countries. But once the forum was initiated, you found out that people were able to come and tell their stories. Nobody told those stories for them. And what was also beautiful is that you have the commissioners in those forums listening to them and being guided by the information they receive from, so to say, the horse's mouth.
Okay.
Yes, telling them exactly this is what is happening and this is what we expect the African Commission to do. And what is also exciting in terms of what we do, we also work principally in 4 main areas. That is in governance, in gender equality, the right to development, and in conflict management.
Okay.
And when you look at those 4 focus areas, there are times that we are able to work on gender equality, governance, and conflict, you know, and there is also there is also a very fine line that goes through those 3 areas of work, and it did help because when even before the impasse during the elections, I also worked as the chairperson of the CSO Coalition on Elections, and that also gave me a lot of assistance and opportunities to speak to people who come in their delegations, and also to push through some of the issues that civil society was facing in terms of civic space. Another area that we also worked in is that of what we call the African Transformative Justice Project, in training mediators that go into the communities. We had community mediation taking place in 5 main centers. We call them mediation and peace centers. We had one in URR, we had one in North Bank, we had one in Lower River, and we had one in the Brikama area as well as one in Baguio. So we had 5 mediation and peace centers.
That's okay. That's massive stride today in that area. We have several other areas that we want to tackle tonight. So you're doing extremely well to do justice to the demand of that very question, to satisfy the person who say that you are more or less there for your interest, or the center is there for its interest, so to speak. That's great.
And perhaps I also need to give a little bit of history on the establishment of the African Center.
Okay. You might just want to do that in a very concise manner because of time. We have a whole lot of area to touch. Go ahead, please.
Okay. The African Commission was established in 1987.
Okay.
And it found its home in the Gambia. At the time, you had Justice Hassan Jallow as the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, who incidentally is also the first chairperson of the African Center's Governing Council. Okay. And it was through them that they became the founding fathers, through collaboration with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, as well as the International Commission of Jurists. They founded the center as a platform to encourage and make possible the participation of civil society and the citizens of Africa. Okay. So that was how the center came about. Okay. It came into being as a part of, we call it an act of the Gambian Parliament. Okay. But it was in 1994 when the coup d'etat took place that the board members, the governing council members, agreed that an independent institution cannot have a head of state who was not democratically elected then as the patron of the center. Okay. And that was how the governing council met with the Second Republic's president and indicated their wish to be independent. At the time, the government was giving the center $1 million per annum. Okay. But then after the independence, a few years after, this stopped. Okay. And since then, the center has been independent and been doing its own fundraising and has a board of 7 members from all over Africa who are experts in their own right when we talk about governance, when we talk about human rights on the continent. Okay, thank you.
That's great. That was a deep explanation to speak into the details of the establishment of the Center for Democracy and Human Rights. And I think those of you watching on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, you can actually tap into this fountain of knowledge as she speaks of all on the assessment and evaluation of Africa's democratic credential. Quickly. You've been in this country for donkey years. This is your homeland, and you've been in this position for a very long period of time. If you were to do a comparative analysis of the Gambia democratic space between the previous regime and the current regime of President Adama Barrow, what are the areas of improvement in terms of democratic dividends and human rights, as well as the areas of progress made so far?
One of the areas that really calls for acclamation is the setting up of the TRRC.
Okay.
And yes, everybody was excited because everybody wanted to see some changes, concrete changes. But then what we see now is very slow, the progress in terms of implementation of the recommendations of the TRRC. We feel that there is a lot more that needs to be done. We also acknowledge the fact that, yes, there are lots of funds, resources needed, and we cannot build a system based on going around and asking for funds or donors to fund our democratic process. I think that is an area that we need to ensure that we ourselves are able to take on our role and not to be too dependent. Because when USAID withdrew, closed down by the Trump regime, yes,
several quarters of
that's
Africa.
right. So perhaps what if you ask me, what I want to see is that we cut our coat according to our cloth. We cannot continue begging to have a correct system in the country. Yes, there's been a lot of progress in terms of the setting up of the Janneh Commission and whatever. But then there's also the challenge of implementation. Okay. And I can see that also from the previous regimes of the First Republic, because the African Center was established during the first regime by the president, Sir Dawda Jawara, and his government. Then we came to the Second Republic, and then we saw that there have been challenges in terms of putting in place the requisite mechanisms to ensure that human rights and governance take center stage. Okay. We were pleased to see that in the Third Republic, human rights governance became the watchword that that people are talking about. Yes, human rights, yes. But then, to my mind, if you ask me, there has been also challenges in terms of people knowing what human rights are. Because most of the time, if we look at the African Charter, it talks about rights, but it also talks about responsibility. Yes, you cannot be claiming your rights all the time and forget about your responsibility to the nation, to the communities, and even to your own family. And that is that sometimes brings in a lot of challenges for a lot of people. Because if you disagree with me, or if you do not support what I am saying, then you are not saying anything. Okay. But then in human rights, I believe that every voice counts, and it is a collective responsibility for each and every citizen to ensure that they respect human rights, they respect themselves as much as they respect the next person, especially our vulnerable and marginalized groups.
Yeah, that's clever, dear. Those of you watching us, you'll be reminded that the Pan-African Drive is proudly sponsored by Africa, the best GSM service provider in the game. We have Madam Hannah Foster, who happens to be an icon in the era of democracy and human rights, not just in the Gambia, but on the regional level as well as continental level, should I say, globally as well. Madam, according to the Afrobarometer 2024-2025, you have 66% of the African population yearning for democracy as the form of government that should remain. But then, ironically, you have 37% of all African nations are saying that democracy is functioning in our respective nations. If you look around, if you look at the Central African Republic, there are massive human rights violations. You go to Nigeria, massive human rights violation, northern Nigeria. The lifespan there, you can't even describe it. You go to the Congo, you go to Sahel nations. How do you reconcile the fact that 66% are yearning for democracy and 37% are saying that it actually works in our country as a functioning system? What's the point of reconciliation? What's the missing puzzle?
I dare say that it depends on the way you look at the elephant. Yes, the blind man and the elephant. If you are holding on to the leg, you might have a different perspective of what you mean when you say this is an elephant. Okay. You know, and when we talk about democracy, it depends on which side of the equation you are in. I just would like to share a story. I used to teach at the University of Pretoria in one of their master's classes on human rights and democratization. Okay. And I happened to meet two people who were from the same country, and after their graduation, one started to work for the government and the other one was in civil society. Okay. And they both came to the NGO forum and also to the session of the African Commission. What was interesting was that each of them was singing for their own supper, because the one who was working for government was telling us that that particular government, that particular state, is one of the best states in Africa. Okay. Whereas the person who was working for civil society was giving us a very entirely different story of the state of human rights and democracy in that particular
Where are you coming from, Madam? Where are you coming from in that regard?
In that regard, it is very important for us to know what is really happening. And you don't get the information from just one person. Okay. As an institution, we work with different stakeholders. And in getting information from different sources, assess them, analyze them, and are able to say, this is the right story, this is what actually holds water. Okay. And in many of our countries, that is the state of affairs, because you find out that when you hear some stories about the state of human rights, it depends on where they're coming from. That's why I say it depends on which side of the elephant the blind man is holding on.
Madam Foster, whatever side we come from of the elephant, like you put it, if you go back to the core value or principle for democracy, it says government of the people, for the people, and by the people.
And by the people.
Those are core values that must remain.
Yes. But it depends whether they are only lip service. Because you find out that many of the states would tell you, yes, we are doing our best, you know, we've ratified all the instruments, we are definitely domesticating, and we will be implementing. I am speaking from the Maputo Protocol. Okay. The Maputo Protocol is over 20 years old, and we still have not gotten universal ratification of the protocol, let alone implementation. After, let's say, since the Solemn Declaration on Gender Equality, which was signed and adopted by the states of the African Union, and there was in that particular declaration the fact that states will ensure that they will all ratify and implement the Maputo Protocol before the next 5 years. That was in 2010. We are now in 2026. And it has not happened. So I believe as activists, all of us should have our shoulders to the wheel. Sometimes many of us would be like looking at and pointing fingers at others. And I like the fact that they say when you point your finger at a person, 4 fingers are pointing at you.
When you point your finger at a person, 4
are pointing at you.
Okay, 4 pointing at you. Madam, I believe you've been very instrumental, not just from a Gambian perspective. You had engagements with regional stakeholders under democracy and human rights, as well as continental level. What have you taught these people from several quarters of Africa, stakeholders who attend national symposium, continental symposium, honor your training? Because mind you, you are heading the Africa Center for Human Rights and Democracy. What have you been teaching these people? Because what we see, the evidence outside here contradict what's happening. in terms of the theories, because if you go to South Africa today, there is a massive human rights violation.
Xenophobia is
stigma and discrimination across with non-South Africans. You know, the hunger in the Central African Republic. South Sudanese cannot even wake up to see bread to survive, and those are all massive human rights violations. What have you been teaching these people, your center?
We have not been teaching them. We've been working together with them to ensure that we recognize our roles and to play our various roles at our different areas of interventions. Yes, we have at the level of the African Union Agenda 2063, which does have its pillars. But then we are looking at building or creating an Africa that is prosperous, an Africa that is integrated, and an Africa that is peaceful. And according to what we see on the continent, it's far away from being peaceful, because as you rightly say, there are problems, there is conflict in Sudan, there's conflict in the Great Lakes. We are talking about Burundi, DRC, Rwanda area. We are talking about the Sahel, the breakaway from ECOWAS. We are also talking about Cameroon. English-speaking, French-speaking Cameroon. We are also talking about South Sudan.
Somalia.
Somalia. And also a whole lot of issues, fundamentalism in the area of Libya, Niger, Chad area.
I am happy that you're mentioning all of these lapses that we still have in our democratic space.
Yes,
our situation becomes like a wound that you're struggling to cure, and as you close one gap and another wound pops up. What are the challenges that are undermining the growth and development of our democracy as a continent and people?
And perhaps let me finish. It doesn't stop there. We also see a lot of unconstitutional changes of government. We see governments trying to tinker with the constitution to ensure that they have their third terms or
polish themselves.
Yes. And it is something that the citizens themselves are not doing much about. Because if you are part of the group that is trying to make sure that they seize power, whether it's by force or by cohesion, you find out that they get the support they want. And what needs to happen is that we as citizens should know what is good for us. We should be able to stand together to support the values that we preach, the human rights values that we preach, and stand for them. But you also, I'm sure if you follow some of the discussions, you find people cross-carpeting. Yes, today they are saying one thing, and tomorrow it's the opposite. And these are people who supposedly are supposed to be guiding the nation in making sure that we achieve what we have set ourselves to do. Yes, many of the times we hear about lip service. Yes, they tell you they know what is right, they know what the instruments are saying, but then when it comes to doing it, when it comes to the action, it's something else. And imagine as head of the African Center in the Gambia and the main officer, CEO, I'm being told, hey, you have to be part of our political party. I don't have to. My work is not synonymous with any political party. I am preaching the gospel of human rights. I cannot see myself aligning the institution with any political party. If I want to align myself with any political party, I will have to leave the center. And my integrity tells me that that is what I should do. So for some people, and it's some of these discontented people who've approached me, and I have told them my work cannot be aligned with political party work.
My work cannot be aligned with political parties' work. That's why we're going to take our break right now. And once we return, we continue this conversation. And I am with Madam Hannah Foster here as she speaks on the evaluation of Africa's democratic credential. We'll take our short break when we come back and continue.
Every time you buy credit or data, that's a speed and win waiting on your My AfriCell app. 50 megabytes, 100 megabytes, 5 gigabytes of internet data. Sitanga tanga. Credit or data purchases? Spin and win rec. AfriCell and AfriMoney, where loyalty pays and the fun never fades.
Welcome back from that short break here, and be reminded that we are on a Pan-African Drive here, a platform that is meant to use the African solutions for the African problems. And we are super proud and honored to be with you, Madam Hannah Foster, who happens to be the Executive Directress of the African Center for Human Rights and Democracy. Madam, just before we took a break, you spoke where political institutions have all tried to influence you to join in their parties, and you says on the ground of integrity that my center, my involvement of activism on human rights and democracy does not permit me to align with a political party. Then it begs the question, how crucial is integrity in the execution of our excellent democracy across the continent of Africa? Because we've seen that we have been compromised as a region, as states, and by extension as a continent. That's why we look like puppets to the rest of the world. But how crucial is integrity in safeguarding our democracy? Integrity
is at the heart of what we do. Yes, because if you do not have integrity, there's a lot of money, people who would give you money to use you to get things done. The center has benefited from some institutions, but then you find out that there are certain grants that I do not ensure that the center will not take.
Okay.
Any grant that will bring the integrity of the center and its staff into question,
okay,
I say no.
You don't need it.
No, and I can give you names of some institutions that we refuse to take their money.
You're going to be a bad news to a lot of politicians, though.
Yes, and I know, because not only politicians,
okay,
but state parties,
okay,
because I'm sure you know that the resolutions and recommendations that we send to the African Commission has to do with what is happening in certain countries. Mm-hmm. And some of those countries, there are some countries I will not go, okay, because I know if I go there, I might be killed.
Oh,
yes,
you don't feel
because
safe.
we have supported some of the activists that have been facing challenges in their countries. We've provided platforms for them to be able to talk to the commissioners or the mechanisms that are in charge of the issue at hand. Okay. So for me, there are some countries I will not go. Yes. I know that.
Do you want to name some of those countries?
No, I will not.
Okay.
I will not, because I am sure some of them, they know that, yes, they will say, okay, it was Hannah who made sure that this person came to Gambia, spoke to the mechanism, and that person went. Sometimes you find out that they follow them, and those same defenders, they call me, and I tell the commissioner, mm-hmm, in charge, I said, this person has made their report, they have made their report available, they are going home, but they've called me to complain A, B, C, D, E, F. And what happens is, I've had cases where people go to Dakar, they are followed by security services of that particular state, and we have to ask the defender to come back to Banjul, and then you find out that the commission makes an announcement in open session, in public session, to say certain defenders are facing these challenges, and we want to ensure that the state takes responsibility for anything that happens to those people. And these things have happened, but it is not for us as the center to announce all of these things. Okay. Yes, but if people who have benefited from the work that we've been doing, there are many, and they can testify to what the center has been doing over the years. And I can assure you, okay, that we have not been wasting. Many times you find out that we don't have the requisite funding for this forum. But even now, as we speak, the next session is going to be held in Senegal.
Okay.
Some of the participants have already starting to make us know that they are interested in participating at the next session, not this one that is starting tomorrow.
Okay.
So it means that we are filling a void that needs attention from the Commission
If you were,
and from the states.
if you were given invitation on state visit to these countries, Liberia, Cameroon, Nigeria, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Congo, Mali, Burkina Faso, which would you honor, which would you condemn?
It depends. It really depends. Because for every session of the Commission,
Okay.
you find out that most of the sessions were held in Gambia. But there have been sessions in Senegal, in Nigeria, in Lesotho, in Botswana,
Okay.
you know, and the same in Arusha, Tanzania, in Kenya, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. We've been to all the outside, to Mauritania. We've been.
Would you honor that visit to Liberia, Cameroon, Nigeria?
If the center is invited,
Okay.
if I cannot go, my board members can go and my staff. It depends. I will have to assess
Okay.
and decide on whether because it's an invitation to the center.
Okay.
And I am not the center.
Yeah. But
So-
what if it is directed to the executive director?
That also will have to be assessed, because I know there was a particular government that wanted us to carry out a training. It was technical assistance for 1 year. And they were ready to pay the salaries of my staff members. They were also ready to pay for the missions to go to their country and things like that.
Okay.
But then, upon assessment, I felt that I should not be going.
Okay.
So I took the case to the governing council, and I convinced the chairperson to lead the delegation. And when we had subsequent meeting with that particular state, what happened was they said, yes, they don't mind all the people that I have put on the delegation,
Okay.
but they would want me to be part of the delegation. And I said, no, I'm sorry.
So what have you understood that implied forceful nature of you honoring the call? What have you understood it to be?
I know,
a trap?
I knew exactly what they wanted.
Do you see
Yes.
as traps?
So, but then, my argument was I could not go because after the delegation comes back, I am the one who's supposed to justify whether the center takes on that role that they want us to play or not. So I cannot be part of the delegation that goes in to carry out the assessment and then come back and make recommendations. So that was how I was able to get out of it. But I told them I cannot come in and assess and then come back and write a justification. I said I cannot be both judge and jury in this case. So I'm sorry, I cannot come. So if these members cannot come and carry out the assignment, then I'm sorry, it cannot be.
Madam, from your point, Madam Foster, is as though our democracy as a continent has a group, an occultic, political occultic institution that is there to undermine its progress. Do you subscribe to that?
Yes, I agree.
How do we demystify that?
Sometimes you find out that some of us who preach the gospel of human rights, they know what they are saying.
Okay.
But then there's a discrepancy between what they say and what they do. And that is why it is very important that when we deal with each other, we are able to maintain our integrity.
Okay.
We are able to say things here and now that we can repeat anywhere we go to,
Okay.
whether you've just woken up from your sleep or not. And that is one area that needs a lot of work, because you cannot look at a snake just because the snake is putting on a pair of trousers and a watch. That changes the nature of the snake. So we have to make sure that we are able to identify each one of us and classify each one of us where we should be going. Because if you are preaching the gospel of human rights, a lot is expected of you. And I dare say the African Center has been able to build has a lot of potential and is recognized at the national level, at the regional level, and at the global level. We work with the African Commission. We also work with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the Human Rights Council, the General Assembly, even with Commonwealth Foundation. So we know that a little mistake can create, yes. So we have to protect what we have built over the years.
We have to protect what we've built over the years. That's the voice of my guest, Madam Hannah Foster here. I hope you learned it somewhere there, wherever you are on the sound of my voice. It remains a Pan-African Drive here, a platform meant to build bridges between and amongst nations. Madam, in spite of the great strides you've made in the area of democracy and human rights, from your voice, you can see that there are massive challenges. You want to highlight the major challenges that actually undermine the growth of all democracy and human rights, not just on the regional level, but on a continental level. What are the major challenges that you can say is too tough to even handle?
I would want to flag the closing of civic space.
Okay.
Yes, and the state of human rights defenders, particularly women human rights defenders. Mm-hmm. Many times you find out that women human rights defenders are taken for granted.
Okay.
Yes, we've seen in 2012, the African Commission came up with a report on the study of the situation of women human rights defenders. And I can tell you for free that nothing much has been done to now, despite the fact that at the level of the General Assembly, there has been resolutions upon resolutions on the need to protect women human rights defenders. And in most of our countries, even at the level of African states, we have only about four or five states that have definitely gone out of their way to come up with a declaration or a law that is protecting human rights defenders. Because there are some of our states in which being a human rights defender is a crime. And that has created a lot of challenges in terms of ensuring that states know that citizens are not happy about certain things. And one of the areas that we've also been working in is that of communities discriminated against by work and descent. Okay. And you know, when we started working on it, people were like, no, those things don't happen. But then when you look at the findings in the reports, you cannot believe that as human beings, we treat each other very shabbily, it's very cruel, because imagine you are all human beings, but we cannot stay in the same house or in the same compound. They cannot, even in death, we cannot be buried in the same cemetery. And a whole lot of other things are happening, you know. And Gambia is one of the countries that these things are happening, and we want to see things change.
We want to see things
It's happening in Gambia, in Mauritania, in Niger, in Senegal, in what do you call it? In Chad.
In Chad.
Yes, and we have studies of those. If you come to the center, or if you send an email, we can share with you the copies of those reports that we have. Okay. Yes, and these are things that are happening, and it is as a result of inequality. Yes, inequality, injustice, you know, because and poverty. Poverty, a whole lot of us are living in poverty. And sometimes people say, okay, poverty is not having something to eat. It doesn't stop there. Poverty is much more than not having something to eat. You know, and I think it behoves on all of us to fly the flag of human rights, to learn more about human rights, and to be able to stand with those whose rights are not respected, those whose rights are violated. Many times you find out, okay, you just grin and bear when certain things happen. But then we want the people of Africa to know that the African Union has put in place an organ called the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, which is the treaty body that ensures the implementation of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. So we need to know more about these issues, and we need to be able to stand up for our rights. And for those of us who try so hard to stand firm with you, because I cannot stand for you, I cannot speak for you, but if you do stand up, then we can stand with you. Thank you.
If you stand up, we can stand up with you. Very few nations, madam, are making a massive stride in terms of the necessary, or should I say, requisite democratic strides. Like if you go to the Botswana for President Boko Duma, he's doing well there. You go to Port Louis, Mauritius, they're doing well. You go to Namibia, they're doing well. The justice system, educational system, health system, these are, necessary democratic dividends that the masses actually vote for, which is just a minute portion of the 37% that are making massive stride in comparison to the rest of 60+% that are not doing well. What are they doing differently that we are not doing in the rest of the continent in terms of democracy and human rights?
Michael, for me, I believe it's a little bit problematic because most of these countries, each of them do have their own context.
Okay.
And yes, there are areas that you can say, okay, they are all doing well, but there are areas that some of them are not doing so well.
Yeah, but overall, they are doing well.
Yes. Yes, Botswana is
doing well.
Is doing well.
Compared to any other nation in West Africa?
Compared to others. But then you also, when you look at their GDP, when you look at, there are certain, even when you look at representation, for example, it's problematic. In the Gambia, since in the First Republic, you find out that we are still minus, not even 10% of representation for women.
I am glad you talk about representation because in Botswana, 20-year-old Bokolo Joy Kanowendu became the youngest in parliament sometime back,
That's right.
And we haven't had that
in some of our other countries, yes, they are trying.
Okay.
But then, why not Gambia?
Rhetorical question. Why not Gambia?
Why not Gambia? Yes, we have some up-and-coming youth who are doing well, but they need the support of the population. Yes? And that is perhaps somewhere we can begin to make sure that we empower the youth, to make sure that we empower the women, so that their voices can be heard, so that they can also come, because these are groups that have faced a lot of challenges, a lot of discrimination, yes, a lot of discrimination, injustice, yes, and nothing is nothing is being done about it. We have so many laws, yes, so the Gambia has ratified so many instruments, so many conventions, but then
we've never lacked legislation.
In terms of implementation, I think that is where we need to put our energies to. And it's not only for the state, but I believe that with the support of all stakeholders, we should be able to meet
in that regard, what would you say to the subscription that young people, women are only very verbal in their conversation, but they are not very practical? They are not waking up from the state of dormancy to seize the opportunity to become drivers of their own destiny.
I don't subscribe to that.
Okay.
I know that a large percentage of women and youth, they know their right. And I'm sure there's a higher percentage of learned youth in these days than more
I'm aware of that, but taking a step, it differs. Being learned, it differs with taking a step, waking up. If you check, they are the one waking up and cheering the older politicians doing campaign period to get back into power. Look across Africa, madam. The evidence are there.
That's right. But we also see some of them saying, this is not what we want.
A minute portion, a small portion.
But it has to begin somewhere.
Okay.
Yes, and we have to make sure that those ones who are saying, this is not right, this is what we want, especially those who know what they want, are given the requisite support they need to move the agenda. Because it's a collective responsibility. We cannot take the affairs of the country and put it in just a couple of hands. All of us, yes?
Got to be involved.
All of us have to be involved.
Okay.
And all of us do have a role to play.
It's a beautiful experience here on the Pan-African Drive for an icon in the area for democracy and human rights, not just in the Gambia, but on a regional level and continental level, should I say even global level. And it remains a platform that is meant to build bridges between and amongst Africa. Madam, there is something in the pipeline from your center shortly. You want to talk about it. What's in the pipeline?
From tomorrow, 7th to 9th,
Okay.
We have the Forum of NGOs in the work of the African Commission.
Okay.
And this time round, it's going to be based on the theme of the AU, which is looking at sustainable water, availability of water,
Okay.
and also sanitation systems.
Okay.
And it's also interesting for us to say that Africa has seen a lot of displacement. Africa has seen a lot of child malnutrition. And we've also seen that in some of our countries, they don't even have proper drinking water. And even when you look at some of our roads here in the Gambia, we have nice roads, but the drainage is something else.
Not structured?
Well, it leaves a lot to be desired.
Okay.
But then I think it's not only the Gambia.
There are great strides in the area of roads, though.
That's right. Yes, the roads are, but then in terms of sanitation, I think there is a lot more is expected.
The citizens have a responsibility.
Well, I cannot agree with you more,
Okay.
that the citizens also have a role to play. The government does not have all the money we need to get everything done.
Okay.
So we also, all of us, should make sure that we play our role in ensuring that this happens. But then this particular theme is supporting the AU theme of the year, and we should be bringing in experts. Some of them have already arrived,
okay.
and we'll be looking at how states should be able to ensure that there is proper sanitation for the citizenry, there is proper drinking water. Environment is something that will add to their years of life, to their health, and ensuring also that there is a lot of education to ensure that they know how to keep their environment clean
yeah.
and sanitized.
We're running out of time, Madam. You want to tell us the venue for tomorrow's event and the time?
The venue,
am I invited?
Sure.
Okay.
The venue is at the OIC,
okay.
and it starts at 9 in the
I
morning.
didn't see my invite, though. How do I get in tomorrow?
It's an open invite, and you are lucky because you know Pa Modu Cham, who is our info and communications officer, and I'm sure he will let you in. He will tell his team to ensure that you come in, and it's open. Usually, we have a website with a link that people can register. And there is no, it's open, it's democratic. If you want to, you participate. The only thing is you make a contribution of 150 for your lunch and your whatever the conference package, a contribution towards the conference package. But apart from that, you can, if you want to organize a panel, you are free to do so. If you want to be part of discussions, you are free to do so. If you have concerns about a particular issue and you have a resolution or a recommendation that you want the Commission to commit to, we also have that space. We have a drafting committee who come together to look at all the proposals, and at the end of the day, the last day, all those proposals are brought for adoption by the plenary.
Thank you, Madam. We are running out of time. I will give you just a minute to send your final words to Gambians and in your favorite local dialect here, and then you're going to replicate that for the rest of the continent in English language regarding the steps in restoring or maintaining a strong democracy across the continent. You can speak your favorite language for Gambians.
I don't have a favorite language,
Okay,
but
okay.
I'll try to speak in Wolof.
Okay, go ahead.
Suñu waxee human rights dang dee gis am na ñu bëri nga xam ne dañ dee am a negative connotation waaye human rights affaire yi waxi dëgg la affaire yi waxi jàppa ñi nga xam ne mun a luñ seen boppa jéemantal leen ñu teete wante pour mun a am dëkk bu neex mun a am dëkk bu am jaama ñu mun a dimbale wante so pour ne human rights affaire yi xuloo la wala affaire yi saaga la affaire yi demante court du emut foofu déedéet human rights su fekkee ne def nañ ko niñ ko war a defee jaama ju bari moo war a am inequality du am injustice du am ba pare discrimination tamit du mun a am so suñu waxee ñetti principles yooyu human rights suñ ko toppee niñ ko war a defee dinañ ko am.
You want to replicate that in English for the rest of the continent?
Yes. In
30
English,
seconds.
I want to just say that when we talk about human rights, we cannot but promote the principles that ensure that there is justice, that ensures that there is non-discrimination, that ensures that there is equality. So whether it's in the Gambia or anywhere in the world, those three principles ensure that human rights are respected and each and every citizen is able to enjoy their rights.
It's beautiful having you here on the Pan-African Drive. Wherever you are on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, it remains the Pan-African Drive. It's been a very nice experience for Madam Hannah Foster, who happens to be the Executive Directress of the Africa Center for Human Rights and Democracy. And we'll catch you next Wednesday on a brand new edition of the Pan-African Drive. Thank you very much. If you like, follow us with me, Neo Socrates. Tony Michael Ha. Bye-bye.
You can now turn your loyalty points into data or voice bundles. Simply dial *772#, press 1 to check how many points you've got, press 2 to redeem those points. Recharge on AfriCell, buy credit on AfriMoney, buy cash power. Lord Efrek, you get points. Even when you redeem, your total points still stack up, giving you a chance to win one of 2 luxury AfriCell villas. AfriCell, 25 years of rewarding loyalty, and we're just getting started.